Indictments are being dismissed left and right. Charges conjured by Fani Willis and her lover were dismissed in Georgia. Indictments against Jim Comey and Letitia James have been dropped for now. A federal judge opined the prosecutor was, quote, unlawfully appointed, so her decisions are void ab initio.
I'm grateful that the court ended the case against me, which was a prosecution based on malevolence and incompetence, and a reflection of what the Department of Justice has become under Donald Trump, which is heartbreaking.
He is so blind to the irony. No one did more to destroy DOJ than Jim Comey. He exonerated Hillary Clinton before he even interviewed her. He misled the FISA court. He relied on disgraced sources and debunked research paid for by political opponents. He targeted a presidential candidate and later a president. He assigned agents riddled with bias to investigate his political enemies. Comey even admitted he treated Trump differently and worse than Barack Obama, and the media howled with laughter. The dismissal of his indictment will likely be appealed to the Fourth Circuit Court of Appeals, which used to be one of the more conservative in the country until it wasn't.
We'll be taking all available legal action, including an immediate appeal, to hold Letitia James and James Comey accountable for their unlawful conduct. I talked to all of our U.S. attorneys, the majority of them around the country, and Lindsay Halligan is an excellent U.S. attorney, and shame on them for not wanting her in office.
Joining us is former federal prosecutor Katie Cherkasky. Welcome, counselor. Let's start in Georgia with the soap opera known as Fani Willis. What happened there? It looks like that case is gone.
Well, the case is officially gone now. If we recall, Fani Willis's office was disqualified from continuing the prosecution, and this is just one of many issues. So the question was there another prosecutor who would be willing to even take this case? And the answer was that the case was completely non-viable on basically every ground that many of us have known for a long time, including all of the constitutional issues, the issues with the presidential immunity, of course, the issues with the prosecutor and the conflicts that arose with her relationship there as well. So ultimately, the case is now officially over and will not be brought back, which is long overdue.
All right, Katie, let me ask you about something that may be on life support, not officially dead, but maybe in critical condition. A U.S. District Court judge found interim U.S. Attorney Lindsay Halligan was not properly appointed. Why not just resubmit to the grand jury with a correct indictment and a valid prosecutor? I mean, I hadn't done it in a long time, but don't you have a little window to correct that?
Yes, there's absolutely a window to bring the indictment against James Comey again. If we recall, one of the reasons that this indictment was brought at the time that it was because the statute of limitations for the offense was closing in. But there is a statute that says if a case is dismissed for any reason, even after the statute of limitations has passed, the DOJ has 6 months to refile that case. And in this case, I agree with you. I think that the case can be brought back even by Pam Bondi herself. The Attorney General can bring an indictment in any district. But I do think that it's important to hold this judge accountable on appeal for making the findings that Lindsay Halligan was improperly appointed. I don't agree with the rationale whatsoever. And I do think it was one of those things we would call a technicality, and it is a technicality. I think the cases can be brought. Even James Comey seems to know that it's going to still be something coming after him.
Yeah, back a long time ago, I think that appeal would be to the Fourth Circuit. It used to be one of the more conservative circuits in the country, but that is not the case anymore. All right, since I have you, Kevin McCarthy was Speaker, Lindsey Graham was chairing Judiciary, there were other House and Senate members, and Jack Smith was rifling through phone records. I still, to this day, Katie, do not know what crime he was investigating. And wouldn't Chris Wray and Merrick Garland have to have been involved in that as well?
Well, absolutely. The issues with what is known as the Arctic Frost investigation, where all of these politicians were targeted by the highest levels of our government, is deeply concerning. And this comes in the midst, of course, of President Biden repeatedly stating that nobody is above the law. Well, these agencies, including, of course, Jack Smith, Merrick Garland, all the way potentially up to the top of the Biden administration, were operating fully outside of the law. The Fourth Amendment doesn't allow for willy-nilly searches into anybody's cell phone without any sort of connection or probable cause in many cases to an actual offense. So it's deeply disturbing what happened, and I think that it's something that's been known by many people for a long time, but to see it in black and white like that is deeply troubling.
Katie, thank you so much for joining us on a Sunday night.
Thank you.
Hey, Sean Hannity here. Hey, click here to subscribe to Fox News YouTube page and catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis. You will not get it anywhere else.